The lights went out on the entire education system in the spring of 2020. And 1.5 billion students across all levels of education were affected by school closures. We all looked to governments, school leadership, and not in the least teachers for solutions for education. But who did teachers turn to? And where could they find strength? Welcome to the ETF Live, a conversation about teachers. I would like to invite all our followers to send your questions and your comments while we speak, and also let us know where are you watching us from, because we would like to know the geography of this conversation. And my first question is to Olena, and today actually European Training Foundation launches the Teacher Booster. So Olena, what is Teacher Booster?
Hello, Maria. Hello, everybody. Actually, I'm feeling almost emotional today because the job is done. The videos are there. They are on YouTube, on the ETF website, and everybody could now watch them. And for us, the Teacher Booster is an open education resource, OER. It is a result of a cooperation between the European Training Foundation, ETF, and the Joint Research Center, JRC. And this was designed to really address the different goals. For example, the short-term, very emerging goal was to address the challenges of the lockdown, when the teachers suddenly found themselves locked in front of the computers, and they had to face the challenges of being who they are and how they were coping with their own capacities and competences. And they had to motivate their learners. So the urgent need was really to follow this challenge and to address it with some means. The second longer term, maybe broader goal was for us as a result of a longer term cooperation, that we were aiming at raising awareness among the broader learners, the educators community, and among everybody who is a lifelong learner, awareness of the need to develop key competences. And this has been a long-standing cooperation between the ATF and GRC. So these two goals were important for us, and we decided to try something new. And this new was the development of the 8 learning videos. And actually, the story was very simple. We had to suddenly change the way we were working ourselves, like all educators. And we tried to create something which would be really a live resource, full of original, authentic content. And at the same time, the learning resource that would be speaking to everyone directly while we were alone facing our computer screens. So this was an idea to find the possibility to create these learning videos. There were 7 innovative educators whom we asked if they could produce these videos with us. And we created a professional team. These were 3 people who were supporting this process throughout the whole creation of the videos. We had a professional coach, TED coach, who was supporting the speakers in preparing their speeches. There was also one of the leading experts in entrepreneurship, competent and intercom development, Ellen McCollum. And I didn't mention, actually, the TED coach was Joanna Jongsma. And we had a fantastic video maker with us, Christian Afker. So this was the team who was supporting the speakers. The speakers were chosen from different countries, from 8 different countries. 7 of them were so-called educators. So they were teachers, they were those who were entrepreneurs of education, those in education policies, and also coaches, mentors, etc. But there was also one very surprising speaker. This was a young learner, young student, Eva, who also was asked to share the learner perspective. So this was actually the whole design. We decided to go for flexibility, to give the speakers the structure. So there was a solid concept behind, which was based on the Entrecomp framework and also on the Entrecomp playbook. So there were learning outcomes planned for each learning video, because these were original, longer but original resources for learners to study. But at the same time, we decided to go by the instinct, by the experience of our speakers. And this paid off because at the end, when the videos were completed, we were amazed ourselves. First of all, how interesting were their stories. This was a classical storytelling, sharing the professional secrets, we could say. But at the same time, they shared their emotion, they shared their doubts, they shared their pain in understanding who they are and how they could manage to overcome their difficulties. But also there was a lot of synergy in how they then converged in their advice. This was really interesting. So we hope that this would be also interesting for our the learners and for the those who will be watching the videos.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Olena. We will come back to more detailed, let's say, conversation about those videos. Margherita, do you want to tell us your view on what is a teacher booster?
Well, I agree totally with Olena. This was a reaction to a situation that was not planned by anyone. And we thought that what we could do was to give a platform to teachers to have them share their experiences with their peers. So we wanted to put at the service of teachers what we know. But this video series is a series made to share original content. So normally we do research, we publish report in form of policy brief, but in this case we really wanted to be helpful to teachers and to convey something that was very tangible for them. So these are 8 masterclasses that are meant as conversation starters, so something that convey meaning to teachers, convey experiences that are shared by their peers and that they can comment on a space that is also provided by DTF, which is the open space, where we hope that after this launch and after people have reflected, have had the time to reflect on these videos, they will be able to continue the conversation and to share their own views on how they make competence-based learning a reality in their own practice, in their own contexts.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. I just would like to greet our followers. Actually, we're receiving a lot of messages. Irina Voloshuk saying hello, greetings from Denmark, Sandra from Spain, hello from Paris, bonjour, hello from Albania, Republic of Moldova, Palestine, hello Wissam, hello from Lyon, France, Espoo, Finland, hi Mervi, great to have you with us today, hello from Torino, Italy, and Adisu is saying, hello speakers, many greetings from Germany, Baku, Ukraine, Turkey, Morocco. So really a lot of people following us today. So just to understand, Olena, the teacher booster idea was sparked by the pandemic, right?
Yes and no. This is a very strange answer. It was, I said no, because originally we had big plans with JRC jointly, ETF, because under the Creating New Learning initiative in the ETF, we were planning to hold a joint policy workshop with JRC, focusing on supporting the teachers in the ways and concepts and instruments how to develop the key competence. And we were in the middle of preparation of that workshop, and then the COVID situation sparked. So what we actually did, we had to, like everybody else, like teachers in the classroom, we had to change the modality of our work. And yes, it was also a reaction to the COVID because we changed not only the concept, but also the way of presentation, the whole instrument. And as you could imagine, and we were facing the same challenges as everybody else. For instance, just to mention a few, there were cases like connection problems while we were trying to record the video. And it's not noticeable, I'm sure, but there were such problems, persisting problems, that we had to decide what to do. Actually, Christian had to work with it. And then there was one of our speakers who got COVID during this period. Anyway, this person spoke afterward and recorded the video. And also, for example, one of our speakers was teaching in the frozen classroom with all the windows open, because they needed to ensure that there is enough ventilation during the COVID times. So all these issues were, for us, we knew that we had to do it like everybody else. And this proves another time that we are lifelong learners, teachers, and those who support education. If I may use this opportunity just to say that, to pass greetings to one of our speakers, Marika, whose birthday is today. It was not planned. We chose the date of this presentation, this launch, and then we were glad to find out that this is also her birthday. So warm greetings to Marika.
Yeah, Marika from Georgia. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Congratulations to Marika. So I would like just to quote again, the geography is becoming wider and wider of this conversation. We have Silvia from Spain. We have Mariana saying my lovely greetings from Ustia Gymnasium from Moldova. Hi from Belgium, Athens, Romania, Trento, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Georgia, and again, Spain. So can you give us a few examples of competence-based learning that comes through these videos? Maybe Margherita could start.
Yes, with pleasure. I think I would like to pick as an example a story that comes from Paz Fernandez de Vera. She is a teacher in vocational education in a little village in north of Spain, and she deals with a particularly tough reality, I would say, because Mieres, the city where she's from, is a post-industrial city. It was a city of mines, and when coal mines have been closing, the entire area suffered an economic depression. So she's working in a challenging environment. One example that she tell us everything about is the story of a project that she made up for her students to transform an abandoned place of the city into something new. So the story is particularly interesting because first she opened up to the outer world. So she opened the classroom to the external world by inviting an external organization and local agency to give students a challenge. So they came up as designer to propose to students this idea of finding a spot to transform and give it a new use. Then she didn't say to a student, go to the local factory that has closed and come back with an idea to transform it into a park for children. She said, look for a place that you want to change their use. So she appealed to their own wishes to create value for others. Students chose a tunnel very close to the school, and they decided to transform into a tunnel to collect stories from the area. And they had two constraints: €0 and 5 weeks. They had to clean it up. It was full of square words, bad drawings, and horrible insults and complaints, and they had to transform this place. What they did was to mobilize resources, so get the local community to contribute economically or with tools. So NGOs donated clothes to do the painting, but they also had to mobilize the local community to provide stories, because, for instance, they engaged an NGO that works with people with disabilities, and they were the one that were providing part of the story. So they really had to stage many of the competencies that are described in the competence framework, EntreComp in this case. I think this is a very, very tangible example of how a teacher becomes a designer of an entrepreneurial learning experience and stays there observing how designing an activity can empower learners to learn. And something that is very important you will see in the video, is pass when she says 5 years after, students still remember what they learned, and they use what they have learned in this experience of transforming this place in the challenges they address every day. And they have discovered through this process that they have the capacity to contribute to society and to their local community. So this is my favorite pick, I would say.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. It's truly inspiring stories. Before passing the floor to Olena, I just would like to invite all our followers to send us your question. If you have any question about teachers' role, the new role of teachers due to the COVID pandemic, and let's say what is effective teaching for you, please do so in the chat. Olena, what is your example of a competence that is covered in the Teacher Booster videos?
I'm sure we could give many examples. There was one phrase that really was striking for me, and it resonated very much with how I feel and what I think. Shadi Zatara is a coach from Palestine, and we were in this video series, Teacher Booster. We were addressing teachers in the broader sense, teachers in their new role. The profession of a teacher is transforming very fast. So coaches, mentors are the new teachers, let's say, and the traditional teaching role is also changing towards facilitator of the learning process. So Shadi was saying in his video, you could hear it yourselves. He was saying, "Who am I to give the answer?" So this is really the position. This is a professional position. And he's also talking about the need to learn from your students, to learn from everyone who is around you. And this is what we do every day. And the fact that teachers were put in the spotlight by the epidemics does not mean that they are all really changed. It just became obvious that change is here. So there's no way to avoid it. And this transition between traditional classroom and online teaching, remote support of learning, also includes motivation. And motivation includes self-directed learning. Learning has to be driven by learners. And the role of the teacher is to motivate learners. And this is what Margherita was just saying before, that passing the responsibility for decisions to the learner has to be done professionally by the teachers who guide, who support, who have to be very well prepared to be very effective in these new conditions. So it does not mean that you just leave it and you, I think Cornelia was also talking about, it doesn't mean that you let it go. You need to be on top of all these changes. And this also, if you allow me just to give one more example, in the Creating New Learning project, we conducted a research last year, doing a big literature review, and one of the topics was personalized learning, personalization of learning. And also there was another research talking about the new role of teachers. And as we would imagine, the big challenges that teachers face are not only digital transformation, but also the need to make learning personalized, to take into account the new paradigms and approaches in learning, to work in new learning environments, and also to support networking and collaboration, not only with your students, with your learners, but also among the teachers, because teachers, coaches, educators in general need to seek support from their peers. And this is very important. And I would just mention that all our speakers were talking about the need to support the learner agency, autonomy. It was in Eva's video, in Mervi's video, or for example, the team learning and collaboration, Cornelia and Mervi were talking about, the new learning culture that Mart was talking about, co-creation of knowledge that Paz and Shadi were talking about, or the importance of new vision and the use of formative tools for guiding personalized learning, as Roman was also mentioning. So I think there is these videos are full of hints.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Olena. I just wanted to take one question from our chat. Gerson Sopo is asking how to avoid the resistance to the change of teachers working under traditional way, in brackets. And also, you know, education is one of the most conservative systems actually that we know. So how do we avoid this resistance? Thanks a lot for question, Gerson. Who wants to take that?
I can take it if you want.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is one of the major concerns of people who would like to see more competence-based education happening, and they see the resistance by their colleagues. And I think this is legitimate. First of all, I think that one of the life competencies could come handy. So empathize with colleagues that find it difficult and help them in giving up a bit of control. Because at the end of the day, this process of transforming from a knowledge holder to a learning experience designer is about giving up control. So you are not anymore the person that knows everything and that pours the content of knowledge into the head of students, that super traditional way of understanding. You become someone who design learning experience in which, by making mistakes, by trying things out, learners develop skills, attitudes, and then they're able to process knowledge. So there is a shift for sure, and this requires the capacity to deal with some uncertainty and some ambiguity, which is one of the competencies of Entrecomp. So I think that one way to support this change is to make people feel comfortable with the fact that they don't have to know everything like before. They don't have to master everything. They just have to give up the role of the knowledge holder to become a facilitator of a learning process in which they will learn together with their learners, and they have to step out of their comfort zone a little bit. And I think that one of the guiding principle behind this Teacher Booster series was indeed to show how seven different educators have done it. They do it. They are very different people. Some are outgoing, some are more quiet, some are very energetic and full of ideas, some other are more they think through things and plan things in advance. So there is room for everyone. You don't have to change and become someone else. You just have to give up control, but be comfortable that this is a learning process. And by definition, you will learn the same way your students will learn. So I think that people like Gerson can support their colleagues by saying it's okay to be afraid, it's okay to be fragile, it's okay to try and fail. As long as you learn and you do it better next time, you'll see the results. And Cornelia, I think in her video, gives us an interesting story about how she planned to make students collaborate. And the first time she tried, she failed. Collaboration is not something that happens because you ask students to collaborate. It has to be designed, it has to be scaffolded. And she's a great teacher, and she started by making mistakes.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. Olena?
I fully agree with what Margherita said. And how do you give up control if you're a teacher? That's the question. And for this, I have two words. One is motivation, and another one is performance. So motivation, we learn when we are motivated. So teachers are people like us. And that means that they have to feel that learning is important for their profession. And they also feel they need to understand that what they do is appreciated, and also their promotion, their performance evaluation depends on how well and how skillfully they gave control to their students. So this is important, because if you have a school leader or managers who really don't allow making mistakes, and this is in the core of Entrecomp. So taking risks and going for opportunities implies that there could be failures, as Margherita was saying, but failures have to be seen as part of learning and have to be rewarded as the way to gain experience. So this experience and sharing the responsibility, if you take control of the classroom, your students look at you, okay, you deal with it and you're responsible. If it's a shared responsibility, then you could also expect them to take the responsibility, and the risk will be divided between the teacher and the learner.
There are a lot of interesting comments coming in the chat, but before taking them, I would like to ask you another thing. What you mentioned, it seems like a new profile of teacher. And obviously the COVID pandemic, it brought to light a lot of things that have to be done differently. But how do we make sure we train teachers in a way they can take on this new role that you were mentioning?
Who should answer?
Olena, you can start.
Okay, we work on this topic very, very strategically. So in general, of course, continuous learning of teachers and initial training of teachers are closely connected. And this opens a big Pandora box, because teachers are the product of the education system as well. And there are different ways to impact in-service and pre-service training. And of course, impacting teachers who are already in service is a very urgent task, short-term but urgent task, because they're already in their profession and they're all already teaching. So there need to be some shortcut ways to upgrade teachers, to help them to gain the new competences and skills and units of qualification that allow them to be successful in modern classroom or in the other environment of learning. But when we talk about pre-service training, that requires the whole shift in the initial teacher training, and also the new qualifications of teachers have to be developed, which would reflect these requirements. So I think the key point is to focus on both supporting the development of teachers as human beings, as citizens, as people, so that they could develop their own key competences as well, and also support them as professionals who need to develop the professional skills and competences that allow them to support their learners.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Before passing the floor to Margherita, I just wanted to take one point from Alexandra Stoica. Teachers have to be open for a lifelong learning program. This is just to give it more strength. Margherita, do you want to add something?
Well, if you allow me to point fingers, I see in the comments Sandra Mangas. She was participating last week to an event that was revolving around Entre Compedu project, which is Erasmus Plus funded project. So nothing that either ITF or us are at JRC, at the Joint Research Center, are leading, is a grassroots project, if you want. And she was participating in a conversation online, and then she shared with colleagues, with the people that were online, a tool she created herself. So she created the rubrics through a digital tool that allows to set up rubrics for self-reflection, peer feedback, and teacher assessment. She made it in Spanish, and online there was an outburst of interest. So I think she might have already translated it into English to share it with the community. So for me, something that is important is for sure that occasion for lifelong learning are provided, but also that school organization, educational organization, but community of practices are there to support the innovation that teacher creates. Because teacher, sometimes we tend to be a bit paternalistic and say we have to create resources for teachers. Teachers are not able to deal with the transformation, and this is not true. It may be true for a segment of teachers that are demotivated or concerned by other things, but there is a huge population of teachers that are innovators themselves. So it's important, and I think the ETF Open Space is a platform for this innovator to come and share, for others to get an input to take the next step. So it's a community that has to feedback to the practitioner with this innovation, and also providing feedback and say this doesn't work, or it doesn't work in my context, because also this is important, recognizing that not everything is transferable from any place to any other. There are education system around, so what works in Finland may require a strong adaptation to work in Andalusia. So all these things are real, and teachers know them best because they know their context.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. Olena, you wanted to mention something as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to on the practical side, I wanted to mention that both GRC and us, we are working on the development of different tools and instruments to support the teachers. For example, in the videos themselves, the speakers of these videos mention different resources which help them in their own learning and which could be useful for the others. So these will be available, links will be available online, so there would be further investigation on these. And also in the Creating New Learning project in the CNL, we are launching this year work on the development of new educator profiles. And there will be, gradually we will be building a community of innovative educators, innovative teachers online. So this will be also accessible through the open space that Margherita mentioned. And it will be open for everyone. And it does not mean that this community will be only for those who are innovators formally. It will be open for anyone who would like to try innovation and fail and learn from the others.
Thanks a lot, Olena. Thanks. Actually, Sandra Mangas, that Margherita mentioned, just posted the link in the chat, so you're more than welcome to go and have a look at what Margherita was explaining. And then also one comment from Anna Nebi. She's saying resources for innovative tools in teaching are very important. Thanks a lot for this comment. And I would like to take one remark from Mervi Janssen-Aalto from Finland. Online learning can be an exhaustive digital maze for teachers and students. Vocational education and training organizations need to carefully consider how to support learning communities, which include social partners, as many companies also need to transform the working culture after the COVID-19 shock. Let's be proactive. Anything to comment on that, Olena?
Yes, Mervi is one of the speakers of the Teacher Booster.
Hi, Mervin. It's excellent that you are following us today. And
can I add something?
Sure, absolutely, Margherita.
I think that in many minds, online learning is about having platforms that support content sharing and content interaction with content. So like MOOCs, for instance, massive online open courses, or learning management system in which technology provides a space for documents to be uploaded, video to be uploaded, tests to be uploaded, replies to tests to be interacted with, but the technology can do much more. So in the case of vocational education and training, where especially in dual system, where a lot of learning happens outside the classroom and away from a desk with a computer. Maybe technology has to be used in a different way. So maybe mobile phone have to be used to trigger reflection at a certain point. So when a student has, I don't know, she was soldering metals, she had a task, then the supervisor of the activity could trigger a series of reflection on a mobile phone. So technology is not only starting from zero and setting up a massive online open course for all the class you are teaching, but can also make use of different resources. Mobile phones can be very handy.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. And I would like to take a next question from the chat. Thanks a lot to our followers. You are very active, and there's a conversation ongoing in the chat, which is really good. A question from PyCP Sovan. Do you think certification is important in continuous professional development of teachers? Olena.
I will start because I'm sure Margherita will add. This has been discussed extensively in the community of educators, and certification could be used for different purposes. The important thing for the learner to encourage learning is making learning visible. And this is one of the very important principles, celebrating learning, celebrating success, achievement. And so a certification is one of the ways to acknowledge achievement in learning. It could be also an important factor of quality assurance in education, because there could be internal and external ways to ensure quality of education. This is one of the internal methods of quality assurance, because by ensuring the quality of teachers, their qualifications, we ensure that we can trust them to guide the learning process, to facilitate the learning. At the same time, not all learning achievements should be necessarily certified formally, because there could be different ways of acknowledging these achievements. And it could be also that, for example, we could use open badges, we could use different other methods to acknowledge learning if it's part of lifelong learning driven by the learners themselves, in this case, teachers in their professional development. But it could be also very important for the education authorities to introduce new programs of in-service training for teachers, for continuous professional development, and provide an opportunity for certification of these units of qualification that would be developed by teachers.
Thanks a lot. Margherita, do you want to add something?
No, I think that Olena has covered the topic.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. I have actually another question, because, you know, what happened during the pandemic is that education came to a forefront, in a way, to everyone. But we know that in many EU neighboring countries, there is a problem of a prestige of a profession, of a teacher. Do you think that the pandemic will change that? Because, you know, I've heard from teachers from Central Asia and from Eastern Europe that, you know, unless the profession of a teacher is not prestigious enough, there is not enough attention to the preparation of teachers and to what they do. So do you think the pandemic will change that in a way? Olena?
I think partially, yes. I think there was a lot of rethinking of the values in general among the population, among the different countries. And I think doctors and teachers came at the front of the attention of societies. And I think it's also, every catastrophe is an opportunity also. And we also know it's a famous example when we lose a job. This is an opportunity to move further and for further development. So in this case, I think we need to make all the possible efforts to build on this natural prioritizing, no? To build the systematic policy support response to really work on the increasing the prestige of the teacher occupation. But not only teachers, educator in general, because it's also school leaders. And there's also, there's lots of different issues. The gender issue, for example, the engagement of both women and men into the teaching profession, it's also very important. And I think we understand that the pandemic did not help in terms of economic support to those professions which are heavily funded by the government. So, but also private sector in general. So I think in this case we really need to develop some tools to lift up the prestige and to keep it there.
Thanks a lot. Margherita, do you want to add something?
Yes, I would like to underline that something that to me came out clearly of these first 15 months of the current situation is that everyone must be a lifelong learner. So no matter what the system around was thinking to cope with the transformation of healthcare or education system, what is clear is that people were able to act upon the challenge and creates some new value, attempt some new value creation, were the one who pushed things forward in a better way. So for me, this is something that maybe a few teachers pioneered, but came clear that they were the one who were leading entire school towards coping with the challenge. So I expect that policymaker will acknowledge the importance of lifelong learning for teachers as well, providing not only initial teacher training, but continued teacher training opportunity, but also that the community will mobilize itself, because at the end of the day, lifelong learning is not only taking from time to time very often a new training opportunity, but is becoming the owner of your self-regulated learning. So if as an individual, as a teacher, you want to work on collaboration, then you will follow MOOCs that are available online, and is not your school providing them for you. You will try something in the classroom and learn from that experience. So for me, what will change is also this dimension of everyone becoming a lifelong learner, because if we are not, we won't be able to face upcoming challenges.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 pandemic became the biggest upskilling exercise of our times, actually. So that's a good positive side of this crisis. There is a question from Alexandra. From my point of view, I think there should be also programs for online safety. Even if we had school platform, there were many problems with intruders and hackers. Olena, do you want to take that one?
Very quick response. This is indeed, this is a very big issue, not only for the learners, for education, but also for different organizations which were attacked by hackers. But we could put this question in the context of digital competence framework, DigComp. And we were talking mainly about EntryComp now, but also in DigComp 2.1, that is the current framework, and the new one is coming in a couple of months, new version. So the issue of online safety is one of the key areas of competence development. So DigComp already has a whole bunch of different interesting tools that support its development. And I think we could easily guide colleagues who are participating in this online discussion on how to find them. And they're easily found also on the site of the JRC, or Joint Resource Center.
Okay, thanks a lot, Olena. And also, yes, from the point of view of a parent, it was an issue, especially at the beginning of a lockdown when nobody understood what was going on, and safety issues were, online safety was an issue. Next question comes from Daniela Simonovic. What about when teachers collect certificates and not use in classroom what they have learned?
Well,
a difficult one.
Collect and not use. I would ask in return whether when the teachers collect certificates, whether they really learned something. Because we know that not always receiving a document that confirms, certifies your qualification or a small unit of qualification, it does not mean that you really possess the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that are needed to apply it. And that might mean that the learning did not take place. That's what my first version of what happens. The second version would be that we were discussing also what is the harder thing to develop, the knowledge, the skills, or the attitudes. And I think while the traditional education systems were mainly focusing on knowledge acquisition, there is a much greater emphasis on skills development in the modern education and lifelong learning. But I think we should really work on the attitude development, because attitudes, this is what makes us lifelong learners, and this is what makes us experiment and try. And then through trying, through experience, we would go for development of skills and overall competences. I agree with the comment, it's motivation, Sandra. Yes, I agree.
Can I give you my perspective on this?
Absolutely.
As a certificate collector. So I've been going through any possible formal training you can name, I've done it. I've worked in many different domains. So I started working in advertisement, then I moved to cultural heritage. I worked in air traffic control in the food manufacturing industry, and then I came to work in the JRC. And every time I was challenging myself with the domain that was very difficult, and it had a very steep learning curve. So I'm always been driven by learning something new. And when I was not changing job to learn something new, I was taking a new graduate course to learn something new. So I think that there might be the case that collector of titles are people that are eager to learn, but are not able to apply their learning to their everyday job. And especially if you are in a permanent position, it may be very difficult to try and see how to transform. My answer I found an answer 20 years after starting working, so it took me a while. Still, I'm proud. I think that what made a change for me was to stop trying to learn something new, but starting to do things differently. So really focusing on what I care about. What is the kind of value I want to create, and not trying to find in a new course the perfect solution to becoming the most expert in a given topic, but rather say, okay, I roll my sleeve up, I want to create value for citizen in my case, or educators when I work on this kind of framework, and how can I do it best? So I take like less courses, formal training or non-formal training, and I'm trying to learn much more on the job. So the non-formal learning part has acquired a bigger dimension. But this is also possible because I work in an organization that allows me to take new challenges. So for all those teachers that maybe are collector of titles, is because they cannot find an opportunity to learn on their job. They are not given the freedom to try and experiment. And maybe the message is try and do it in the little room of freedom that you have. Try to do what you care about and see how you can apply your learning.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. And there is little add-on from Ellen McCallum, and putting practical teacher focus at the core of continuing professional development. That's a little addition from Ellen. We keep getting a lot of questions. I'm not sure we will be able to answer all of them, but thanks a lot to all of our followers. They have been very attentive to what we were saying. There is one question I wanted to take about quality assurance. So how do we assure quality of online education?
Maybe I started about the internal quality assurance factors, which is having a competent teacher or facilitator of the learning process. Because internal quality assurance depends on the ingredients of the learning. So it has to be, the tools have to be in place, the people have to be competent, the learning environment should be conducive to online learning, to effective online learning. The curricula should be flexible enough and also designed especially for online learning, not simply digitalized from the paper format. So the pedagogy is different when we teach online, and the engagement of learners is totally different. So I think these are all factors of quality assurance. And there are, of course, external quality assurance factors, including how the authorities see the success of online learning. And this requires a major shift in the education system. I'll stop here to let Margherita speak.
Margherita, yeah.
Yes, I think that's something that we are also trying to do with the Teacher Booster series, is to say you're not alone. To ensure quality, sometimes you have, or most of the times you have to work in teams. We have to work in team, any one of us. So I work as a researcher, and the researcher, we do a lot of peer assessment. So we submit our proposal to peer review in journals, but before we reach that stage, we discuss our ideas with colleagues who provide feedback. And this I think is something that maybe not all teachers are used to do, because they teach their subject and they have colleagues that teach other subject, and we have been used to think in silos. So what can a math teacher learn from a language teacher is difficult to think. But when you start working on competence-based learning, maybe the math teacher can teach a lot to the language teacher and vice versa. And when transferring learning practice from the comfortable domain of the classroom to the uncomfortable domain of the online learning, I'm sure that anybody feedback and input is welcome. So the reason why we're so vocal about having this video series as a conversation starter and bring people to a platform where they can discuss is to provide this space for peer exchange, which is one of the key for quality, for improvement, continuous improvement of quality of what is delivered.
Thanks a lot, Margherita. Thanks. I would like to take a couple of questions for the time we have. One comes from Paisi Sovan. Teaching must take away teachers' personal lives. How can we encourage busy teachers to continually learn new skills? Any tips?
I was looking at this question just as you were reading it. And if I may make one remark, because I see that our time is running fast and we have little time left, but there is a couple of questions related to this one, and then also the student-centered online learning, how to design it, and some other questions, for example, on how to assess learning outcomes for online learning. I would encourage us to continue later in the open space this discussion, because I'm sure my colleagues and also colleagues of the JRC team would be willing to provide more substantial answers. But just to start answering this question, the encouraging teachers, motivation is a very complex, very strange thing. And we discussed it many times with teachers themselves, that they say the salaries are low, we are teaching very long hours, but we remain always enthusiastic because we put the whole heart and soul into our work. So I think if this will be recognized, if we will allow teachers to apply what they have learned, if they would have freedom to experiment and to really follow their learners in personalized and differentiated learning, then I'm sure this would be enough motivation for the people to dedicate time to applying it. But of course, personalized, we are all in the same situation. I think we all find it hard to keep this balance. I don't have the clear answer how to make busy teachers not busy. Really difficult.
Okay, thanks a lot. I would just would like to say to our followers that you can see now the link being published on the chat for Open Space, which is an online community that gathers together people from all over the world, including teachers and educators, that have very interesting and meaningful conversations. So please join. And I think we are over time now. Thanks a lot for all your comments. I would like to end with one last comment that we received from Mariana Plotnikov. Thanks a lot. We go to school. Attitude is everything. Love teaching English. 12 years teaching experience. Thanks a lot, Mariana. I think that's the vibe. That's the motivation we wanted to see you with. And I think we will end up this conversation here. Thanks a lot, Olena Bekh from the European Training Foundation. Thanks a lot, Olena. Thanks a lot, Margherita Bacigalupo from Joint Research Center. Thanks a lot, Margherita.
Thanks to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for this conversation, and stay tuned because there is much more to come. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.